Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from News about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, Majority Leader Mahama Yariga confirms former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Attah's residence was raided by the National Security and has apologized for the incident. But should that be the end of it? Well, questions asked on what more or what next on this. A number of persons also sharing their experiences in the past. Stay with us. We have a conversation on this matter tonight. Also, Minister for the Interior, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, has set up a committee to review recruitment into the security services. What really is in there to be looked at? We speak to a security expert on this. Also, confirmed cases of cholera continues to increase across the country, prompting the Ghana Health Service to announce a vaccination drive. But what more can be done to contain the situation? We have a public health conversation tonight. And also we're monitoring tonight the anti-Galamsey fight. There's something happening in the eastern region, some part of the eastern region. We'll give you an update on here on Ghana Tonight in that respect. You're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Majority Leader, Mahama Yariga, says his interactions with the National Security Coordinator, Interior and Defense Ministers have confirmed reports that the private residence of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Attah was raided by security operatives earlier this week. He has since apologized on behalf of the agencies and assured of the commitment of the various security agencies to ensure that fundamental human rights are protected in the discharge of their duties.
Investigated the matter, and we want to say and assure our fellow countrymen and our colleagues in this house that we have received assurances from the Office of the National Security Coordinator that it was not intended that that should happen, and that occurrence is most regrettable and unfortunate, and he wants to give this house his word and assurance that a thing like that should never happen again.
Meanwhile, Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Marking has revealed that conversations with former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Attah suggest that he is low in spirit after the declaration made by the OSP labeling him as a fugitive of justice. He, however, thanked the Majority Leader for his assurance of the adherence to human rights by security agencies.
I want to assure you that our side would engage you constructively. Let's do the politics in a very decent way. Let's respect each other. Let's use words that are complimentary. Don't let us use this platform to denigrate even our leaders. Sometimes the way we go after our leaders, the little said about it, the better. As at this morning, I had an extensive engagement with him. He's traumatized by the labeling of this adjective described to his person.
The minority in Parliament has condemned the Special Prosecutor's description of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Attah as a fugitive. According to the caucus, the government is using the security to persecute past appointees in the erstwhile MPP administration, a dangerous path they intend to resist. Deputy Minority Leader Patricia Appiagyei has demanded that government ceases further harassment of former appointees and uphold the rule of law.
The OSP, subsequent to the raid, has also, without recourse to law and due process, announced at a press conference that he considers Mr. Oforiatta a suspect and a fugitive. This is shocking. When no charges have even been proffered against the former finance minister. Another matter that demands the attention of the public is the glaring bias and selective justice being exhibited by state security agencies in the administration of their duties.
An Accra High Court has discharged former Ghana Football Association boss Kwesi Nyantakyi after 5 years of tussle over his involvement in the number 12 expose by investigative journalist Anas Aremeyaw Anas. Failure of the prosecution to present Anas Aremeyaw Anas to testify without wearing a mask has resulted in the former GFA boss walking free. Acting Director of the National Service Authority, Felix Jimfi, has called on auditing firms to help review the current system in use by the authority following the discovery of over 80,000 ghost names on the payroll. He described the scandal as a failure by the outgone leadership who sidestepped the system to have their way.
Not to the extent that you allowed 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 ghost names in the system. That is immoral. That is criminal. We will give everything, we will do everything for those who perpetrated this fraud to be brought to the book. The Director General didn't get fictitious Ghana cards, or he certainly didn't take pictures of all the tens of thousands of people. He had collaborators. But the least I can say that you can be very sure that is the last time that we're seeing this.
Reacting to calls for the present system to be changed.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, Minister for the Interior, Mohammed Mutaka Mubarak, has set up a committee to review recruitment into the service, the various security agencies. We'll get into that, but stay with us here on Ghana Tonight because other security-related matters, straight into the issues of the raid on Ken Oforiatta's house. This was topical in Parliament today. That's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. The Minister for the Interior, and in fact, is giving some information to the Majority Leader, that's Mahama Yariga, who are also giving some updates on this. In fact, apologizing for and on behalf of government, essentially, and giving that assurance that based on his interactions with the National Security Coordinator, the Interior Minister, and the Defense Ministers, they have confirmed that indeed there's some reports that of the private residence of former Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta being raided by security operatives. That was earlier in the week. But he has also since apologized on behalf of the agencies and assured of the commitment of the various security agencies to ensure that fundamental human rights are protected in the discharge of their duties. This was Mahama Yariga, the Majority Leader in Parliament, earlier today on this matter. Take a look.
The Deputy Minority Whip sought leave of the Speaker and the indulgence of the House to raise a matter that he thought was of urgent public importance. He drew attention to a joint police-military entry into the private residence of the former Minister of Finance, Honorable Ken Oforiatta. Mr. Speaker, it is true that the private residence of the former Minister of Finance was entered into by operatives of the military and the police, led by somebody who we believe works at the National Security Coordinator's office. Mr. Speaker, his name is Mr. Jakwa. Mr. Speaker, we have investigated the matter, and we want to say and assure our fellow countrymen and our colleagues in this House that we have received assurances from the Office of the National Security Coordinator that it was not intended that that should happen, and that occurrence is most regrettable and unfortunate, and he wants to give this House his word and assurance that a thing like that should never happen again. Mr. Speaker, I have also spoken with the Minister of Interior, who has spoken with his IGP, and I've spoken with the Minister of Defense, and all of them give their assurance to this House that a thing like that will not happen again. And so, Mr. Speaker, let me indicate to my colleagues on the other side that this side of the House remain committed to ensuring that this country is reset, that its institutions function properly, that its officials act in accordance with the law, and that the rights and liberties of every citizen are.
So that's Majority Leader Mama Yaraga there, clearly indicating his correspondence with the various agencies, the Interior Ministry, National Security, giving the assurance that that action, which he says was led by Richard Jakwa, was most regrettable and unfortunate, and that this would never happen again. That is the assurance that Mahama Yaraga, the Majority Leader, gave to the Speaker, and by extension, the members of Parliament representing the Ghanaian people in Parliament earlier today. But the Minority Leader, Alexander Apenyomakin, has also revealed that conversations with the former Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta, suggest that he is low in spirit after the declaration made by the OSP labeling him as a fugitive of justice. He's also thanked the Majority Leader for his assurance and the apology on the raid on the former Finance Minister's house. Take a look.
Ken Oforiatta, as at this morning, I had an extensive engagement with him. He's traumatized by the labeling of this adjective described to his person. But he still knows that his God is with him. He's undergoing some medical procedure. In fact, I had an early morning engagement with the Chief of Staff, who confirmed that indeed Mr. Ken Oforiatta wrote to him and is in receipt of the letter. I will also engage the Office of the Special Prosecutor, engage constructively, assure him and his office that if there was any miscommunication, I, as a leader of my side, is assuring him that the man will make himself available. He left the country with permission. He would come, and if there is anything that has to be investigated, he will make himself available. My respected colleague, extend to His Excellency the President of the Republic the assurances of the minority that with this, we will also accord him every courtesy due him as President of the Republic.
That's Alexander Apenyomakin there. But this appears to have been an experience that some government officials, while in opposition, have also experienced in the past. And even the current Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayeni, recounted his own experience of a raid on his house. In fact, the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, as well, recounted a raid on his house when the NDC went into opposition in 2017. But this is what the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayeni, said at that press conference yesterday when he was answering a question about the OSP's declaration on Ken Ofori-Atta and his own experience of a raid by some security personnel when the NDC was in opposition. Take a look.
In July of 2017, I was in my house when my son came and knocked on my door and told me that he had seen on the CCTV gun-wielding policemen at the gate. This was around 6:30. So I woke up, freshened up, looked into my own, the CCTV, and I saw them. I recognized one of them because as Deputy Attorney General, I used to work with them. So I recognized them. Because I recognized him, I said, no problem, they are not armed robbers. So let them in. They came in and then said they were investigating me for corruption in the Ameri, in respect of the Ameri plant. Okay? So I asked them, okay, what did they want? If they were going to put me under arrest, I was ready to be arrested. If they wanted to search my house, I just wanted a search warrant. Now they refused to give me the search warrant, and I refused to allow them to search the house. Eventually, when they showed me the search warrant, it detailed only 3 items. Okay? Documents, computers, and phones. So I told them, okay, so you have an arrest warrant that limits you to taking these items. So please go ahead and take them. They went ahead and took them. As for the documents, I told them they can go back to the AG's department because I didn't steal any documents on that transaction and take them home. So they left. After a while, they looked through the entire house. Then they left. They actually placed me formally under arrest, but then one of them, the inspector, said there was no need to take me in handcuffs to the police station. Now, after everything, they combed my laptops and phones and everything. They did their investigation. They found nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay? And then they returned the laptop to me. Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because it was one of the most harrowing experiences that I've had in my public life. Very harrowing. The fact that you wake up in the morning and there are policemen, in your house, searching the house, and then potentially they could take me into. I've never slept in a police house. I mean, a police station. I've never done that. I have defended criminals and gone to see what they go through. I don't want to put anybody's father or mother through that unless there is a reasonable basis to do so. So we are going to be very, 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 very careful, and we are going to be very diligent in investigating so that when we come to arrest you, we know that we are doing so because, all right, there's a reasonable basis for it.
There, recounting his own experience of that raid on his house, and then also the current energy minister, in fact, John Jenapo, also recounted a similar experience. And one person who knows the workings of the national security, because the majority leader referenced the national security and then also this particular group of security personnel who raided Ken Ofori-Atta's house. That's led by Richard Jakpa. Richard Kumado is a security analyst, a former BNI operative, that's a Bureau of National Investigation, now NIB, the National Bureau of, that's the National Intelligence Bureau, for that matter. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Kumado, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Thank you, Alfred.
Now, you know the workings of this institution, and it appears that with these past experiences that even the current Attorney General referenced, that he had himself and other ministers who served in the first term of John Mahama also experienced when the NDC went into opposition. And what we are talking about now with what happened in the case of Ken Ofori-Atta, there is that repetition of what the majority leader described as a mistake and apologized for it now. How does all of this strike you?
Definitely, there's a problem. The politicians have bastardized the law enforcement agencies, and they use them as their beck and call. But for professional stance or for meeting the compliance of the job, any person who has come under security notice or investigation notice, you can't be arrested with warrant or without warrant. And your premises or your properties can also be searched with warrant or without warrant. Now, if they decide to choose the second option, searching you without warrant, it means that they are coming on the certificate of emergency when they realize that you have some stuff that is of national security interest or is of investigating interest, and they decide to do so. In doing so, the standard procedure is to identify yourself and declare to the person why you are there and who you are and to what interest. What we have seen for years now, and what has happened in recent cases refers to Ken Ofori-Atta's case, there has been some level of miscommunication on the part of politicians. And that is why, if you remember, I have always been of the view that politicians should stop speaking for security operations or taking responsibilities for security agencies and thereby leading operations, because definitely they are going to make mistakes. What has happened to our uncle Ken Ofori-Atta and his house has not become a parliamentary inquiry exercise. So if my brother Mahama Yariga is speaking to his colleagues because the issue has been raised in the House, he has every liberty to do so. But for taking responsibility for national security operations, I think that is wrong. Seriously, it is wrong. Unless he's the minister assigned for such duties. Other than that, he did what is wrong. The second thing he did wrong was that he put up the name of Richard Jatta. And when you do that, you are creating public sentiments against him. And that may lead to some other inferences on his life. And Alfred, if you remember, Richard Jatta's role has to be identified, whether he works in the office of the president or he works in the office of the National Security Coordinator. Why? Because as security professionals, anytime we go out for public operations, three things come into play. What is the instructive regime we are working with? Who is accountable for who and for what? And who takes responsibility for who and for what? If Richard Jatta led the operation, then who gave him the instruction? And who is accountable for his actions? And who is taking responsibility for what happened in Ken Ofori-Atta's house? It should not be the majority leader to be taking that responsibility. It should be somebody else. And well, definitely,
he says
that approach is wrong. And I think we need to look at it again.
Well, he says he consulted or had some conversations with the Interior Minister, the Defense Minister, and in fact, the National Security Coordinator. And they gave him this information that he conveyed in Parliament as majority leader and gave that assurance that this was not going to happen again. So he was, as a matter of fact, speaking based on the information that the National Security Coordinator had given to him. Zakumado.
No, when he said it's not going to happen again, once anybody or any object of security interest come under investigative arena, they wouldn't speak to the majority leader before they take a decision. And he has gone beyond his remit, saying that he's apologizing and saying that that is not going to happen again. I think we are weakening the hands of the security agencies. The director of the BNI has done this job for many years. They know exactly what they are doing. The IGP know exactly what he's doing. And when there are issues of public safety, where assurances and safety and security is needed, I think we should allow the institutions to speak for themselves so that they can take personal responsibility for their actions. And that is what I'm saying, that there's nothing wrong when the majority leader is speaking on the issue because it has become a parliamentary issue, but there's no inquiry to that effect. And nobody is holding the national security responsible. And so to go to that extent and put a guy's name out there, it is wrong. and to be apologizing and taking responsibility for their action, it is wrong. Because as a matter of fact, all over the world, as a standard procedure, you can't be searched, you can't be arrested with warrant or with a search warrant or without when it becomes a state of emergency. Then number two, the national security operation you are seeing, from the bastardization of the gold operation to this particular one, these are people who come from the various national security agencies and they put them together and they call it a national security operation. To that regard, there's an operational leader who needs to be held accountable and who needs to take responsibility for whatever they have done. And there's so much difficulty within that level of politicians taking responsibility and apologizing.
And in this instance, you say the interior minister should be answering questions, or?
Definitely, because if you look at the law, because you know when the NPP came to power, they established National Security Ministry. Then NDC said they want National Security Coordinator. And the law rightly said, which my brother Mahama Yariga emphasized when the Attorney General went to vetting and Muntaka went for vetting. And they said a minister responsible for national security. Mahama Yariga is not a minister, he's the majority leader. So worst scenario, it should be the Minister for Interior, because public safety is involved, rights of people are involved, and public safety security is involved. Or it should be the Defense Minister or any other minister assigned with that responsibility. But to have a majority leader veering into that area, putting the guy's identity out there and taking responsibility and apologizing, I think we are setting a bad precedent, and that may come back to haunt many of them. Tomorrow, if there's a necessity and they go on any of those assignments in the interest of the state, not for political vendetta or political witch hunting, but in the interest of the state, that is supposed to be stressed, because the whole exercise for having National Security Coordinator is to meet national security interest objectives. And so anything in the interest of the state, the security agencies will act. And I don't think he will want to be going to Parliament all the time, taking responsibility for their actions. And I think competently speaking, because I have done this for almost 29 years, I think we are getting it wrong, and communication is becoming a problem.
I do appreciate your time on this matter. And in fact, we'll see how the coming days will be like, because of the point you make about some further action being taken beyond the apology that has been issued by Mahama Yariga, whom you say shouldn't be taking responsibility for this, even though it says the Interior Minister did give him some briefing with the National Security Coordinator as well. But thank you for your thoughts, as always.
Thank
Richard
you,
Alfred is a security analyst, a former BNI operative, joining us with his thoughts on this matter. But guess what? This is not the only security matter that came up today. That's from the security quarters. We're also going to keep focus on what is happening with that directive from the Interior Minister. That's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, the Interior Minister, has set up a committee to review recruitments into the security services. What really is in there to be looked at? Well, we'll speak to some security aspects on this, but then again, also we'll show you the numbers, really, that probably could be of focus and importance on this particular this directive from Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, the Interior Minister. But earlier today, he gave indication of that committee, the work that they have been tasked to do, directing them to look into the recruitments that were done few months or weeks before the December 7 presidential and parliamentary elections last year. This is the Interior Minister. Take a look.
A lot of concern that this recruitment that really happened in 2024 was in a rush. It wasn't done properly. But you see, you just don't go taking what people say on the streets on the surface value. You need to get facts and you have to get information. And then we are in a country that we need to face reality. I mean, people form party, the party form government, and they expect certain things like when you are doing recruitment, what should happen? We should let it bear open. Are we going to find a neat way of marrying merit, party, and the general public? Should we stick strictly to merit and the general public? and then playing ostriches that political parties do not matter. What do we do? In certain abuse committee, you see that I came in with experts. I mean, if you look at all the persons, I try as much as possible to take away the possibility of excessive partisanship. So it is virtually a kind of fact-finding and also sense of giving direction into the future what we should do. You put up these 7-member professionals to use 2 weeks to go through those in training, give us recommendation, tell us what to do, even in terms of policy direction. What is it new that we can do to forestall all these kind of suspicion anytime recruitments are going on?
That's the Interior Minister, Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak, there. But if you recall, sometime in July 2024, 6 months to the election last year, the NDC minority at the time in the 8th Parliament put out some figures with respect to their own information that they had gotten from members who were serving on the Defense and Interior Committee of that 8th Parliament. Some recruitments that were made into the various security agencies months before the 2024 elections. And if you hear the minister talk about the review of those recruitments and to look into exactly the criteria that was used in getting them in, these are the numbers. The Ghana Immigration Service, according to the NDC minority at the time, 3,000 persons were recruited within that period. So of July 2024 to the Ghana Immigration Service. Ghana Police Service, 4,000. Ghana National Fire Service, 2,000 persons. Ghana Prison Service, 1,500. Narcotics Control Commission, 500. So that is the information that the NDC minority put out at the press conference sometime in July 2024. A total of 11,000 persons recruited. And if you recall, they had indicated that these recruitments were not advertised. And so the then Interior Minister was brought before Parliament. Questions were asked, and they had indicated that the recruitments were being done with a backlog of the persons who had applied earlier. And so they just went in to fill in and take from the backlog of the applications. That's why there was no new advertisement of the vacancies in the various security agencies as we have it. But these were the numbers that were published. But then we're getting indication that if there's going to be a review, this is the place that the Interior Ministry, that committee that has been set up, is going to be looking into. But this is one that we'll keep an eye on as well here on Ghana Tonight, and we'll certainly be updating you a lot more on it. But coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, it is another matter of security, but this time around, it is the fight against illegal mining, Galamsey. I tell you what, there's something we're learning right now coming through on Ghana Tonight. It's a developing story that we've been keeping an eye on over the last 6 hours, and has been developing thick and fast. We're learning now that in the Ayenswano district in the eastern region, there's some disquiet there following the burning of some excavators in relation to illegal mining. That is the information we're getting right now. And that's some of the burnt excavators that you're seeing there. And we understand some Forestry Commission forest guards and officials were the ones who burnt these excavators in the crackdown on illegal mining in the Ayenswano area. And we understand that this has caused some tension in the Obuoho Fante. That's a suburb of Ayenswano district, following the burning of some 4 excavators at a mining site close to the Etiwa Forest. And if you've been following Ghana Tonight, the Etiwa Forest has been a special case for us because of the increasing degradation and also the destruction that that forest has been indeed dealt with over the period. Now, local residents are suspecting forest officials are indeed demanding some answers to what has been going on in that particular area. And we got videos of these excavators that were burnt. We'll put them on the screen right now from one of our viewers here on Ghana Tonight in that area. Sent it to us. We've also checked with the Forestry Commission, and indeed we've got confirmation that the pictures you saw with these uniformed personnel are some Forestry Commission officers who led this crackdown and bent these 4 excavators. And in response to this incident, the Eastern Regional Minister, Rita Ejay Awate, and also the head of the Regional Security Council, has also announced that an investigation will be launched into this, but she's also urged the community to engage in responsible mining practices as the inquiry unfolds. She toured other mining sites at Eyinem and Osino to assess the extent of damage by the irresponsible mining that we've seen over the period. This is it. Take a look.
We just want to place it on record that RESEC and the regional minister have no idea whoever bent these machines, and we are calling for investigation into this issue to know who really are behind it and what rule the people mining here has broken. We don't want any clash after this. So after this, you leave the scene so that we get into the issue and know what really happened. We are aware that we shouldn't enter into the forest. We are aware that after mining, we should cover up and possible reclaim the land, plant a tree so that we could have our forest to grow up our plants. We should also make sure we don't mine.
Well, that's the Eastern Regional Minister and the Chair of the Regional Security Coordinating Council, that's Rita Awate there. Daryl Bosu is the Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana, an environmental NGO. They've been doing extensive work in the Etiwa Forest and its environs. He's joining us on telephone right now. Daryl, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred, and thank you for having me. I believe you're great.
Great. I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Now, with this, what we just showed, these 4 excavators that have been destroyed, the regional minister says, well, the coordinating council has no knowledge of this. They are investigating it, but it is the case that it's the Forestry Commission that led this exercise. Is it not, based on the information that you have?
Yes, that's it. And thank you very much. I need to say that, we have in recent times, whilst we're going through the transition, seeing an escalation of mining impunity within the eastern region. And most of these people, what they do is that they start their illegal activities right on the fringes of the forest reserve. They initially sit around the boundaries of the forest reserve, start taking, and then before you know, they encroach on the boundary of the forest. This particular group has been in the area for not less than 2 weeks, and eyes have been on them. We've been monitoring them and their activities for some time now, and they have encroached into the boundaries of the forest reserve. And so it's not like the Forestry Commission, yes, I can confirm that the Forestry Commission in the rapid response team, who have also been monitoring the issues on the ground and the activity of the illegal miners in the area. We're keeping a close watch and seeing what these guys have been doing for the past 2 weeks now. So I think the action was more to demonstrate that they have very zero tolerance for the illegal activity that has been going on, particularly by the miners, who are deliberately taking advantage of the, I would say, reduced action on galamsey and I would say the silence sort of to really engage in some of these impunity. So it is an action that you can say that is to demonstrate the zero tolerance for illegal activities within the boundaries of the forest reserve.
I see, but does it raise any concern for you that the regional minister who heads the Security Coordinating Council there, and it's also saying that, look, she's not aware of this, they're not going to investigate it, when it is actually some confirmed knowledge that the Forestry Commission led this charge and these excavators were bent?
Well, the regional minister might have a legitimate point in terms of saying that he has no knowledge of what happened. But I believe that the Forestry Commission as an entity clothed also with the power to protect the forest reserve and enforce and ensure compliance with its rules of people not engaging in illegal activities, did not need to inform the regional minister before taking action against illegal activities going on and threatening the integrity of the forest. So this action did not necessarily need to come before the regional minister before it was done. They, as a commission, had every power to also exercise and protect an area that is within their supervision and within the mandate of the work that they do. So I think that it's a matter of also getting to understand were these people engaging in illegal activity, did they encroach on the forest reserve? These are questions that we need to be asking and not necessarily going too hard on the Forestry Commission for enforcing the law. I mean, going forward, I think this is what we need to try and ensure that the communication on what is happening, because if we keep defending communities from engaging in illegal activities, then we are not going to be rid ourselves of this voluntary issue. We need to come hard and demonstrate a zero tolerance posture before these mining issues will be addressed. Otherwise, we'll just keep repeating the same old strategies and we'll see nothing of it.
Mention that the Forestry Commission already had been monitoring the work of these illegal miners who were using these excavators that were destroyed today, correct?
Say that again.
I was saying that you had prior information that the Forestry Commission had knowledge of these excavators that were burnt today being used for illegal mining in this area,
yes,
correct?
Yes, that's true. I mean, like I said, these guys have been in the area for more than 2 weeks, and they are even monitoring ice in the air, monitoring the activities of these groups, particularly around the Obohu area, and working on the boundary area of the Atiwa forest. And that is how come, after monitoring them for a while, this action was taken to try and avert further illegal activity that was encroaching on the forest reserve.
I appreciate you, Darrell. Thank you so much for, as always, connecting with us here on Ghana Tonight.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Alfred. Thank you also for
Darrell Bosso, Deputy National Coordinator of Arocha Ghana, one of the foremost environment-oriented CSOs we have in this country. And they've been doing quite some work in the Tiwa Forest and its environs. This is one that we'll keep an eye on because the regional minister says they've instituted investigations into it. And so we'll see how things play out. But coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, confirmed cases of cholera continue to increase across the country, prompting the Ghana Health Service to announce a vaccination drive. But what more can be done to contain the situation? We have a public health conversation on this matter tonight, and it should be of concern to all of us, and for good reason. About 300,000 persons from age 1 and above have been earmarked by the Ghana Health Service for a cholera vaccination exercise within the Greater Accra region from tomorrow, Friday, the 14th of February, to Monday, the 17th. The exercise, which will take place in 3 sub-metros of the region, Ablekuma South, Okankwe South, and Ashiedu Keteke, seeks to complement efforts to control and contain the cholera outbreak in the country. Let's hear this.
In, say, Kaswa, the Ewutu-Senya East Municipal and Takoradi, Western region in particular, you can tell that the vaccines really work. Because you remember we had issues when we had a lot of cases in Assam, that's Ewutu-Senya. We tried to do the vaccination. We were successful, and within 1 week of starting the vaccination, we saw a quantum dip in the cases, and so we know the vaccines work. Completely not get any infection of cholera, but you will still get people who may. But when you have a lot of people, you know, in epidemiology, I mean, in epidemics, we have a lot of people protected. The rest who are unprotected are even protected. First of all, we have about 500 confirmed cases nationally, and this is historical data, right from the time we started in August. I would say Greater Accra is contributing about 200, but essentially we have more than 6,000 suspected cases. I would rather challenge the media to rather look at the root cause, because open defecation is a big problem. Health will always be at the receiving end. Incidentally, cholera also thrives in filth. In fact, cholera is a disease of filth. It's actually feces. It's water. It's about sanitation. We don't have the mandate to do that. So we will only try to do the education, but the responsibility of the others. We work with them all right, but I think that we should do a bit more in terms of the law enforcement.
Well, to just get you to understand the severity of the situation we're dealing with, the research desk here at TV3, Weiss, Safo, and the team put together some statistics to give you the picture and how worrying it is. The key statistics: over 6,000 plus suspected cases have been recorded nationwide, and that's worrying. And beyond that, 500 of these cases have been confirmed as cholera. Now, part of the Ghana Health Service data also shows that out of the 500 plus cases, guess what? 200 plus of those cases have been confirmed in the Greater Accra region. It's the highest in the country as we speak, the Greater Accra region. And this cholera we are talking about is essentially from unhygienic, places, the unsanitary conditions as well. And to think that we had that objective of making, this is the capital, right? And this, we're recording these cases. And so clearly we have a problem to deal with on our hands as we speak. 80% of these infected individuals show no symptoms, making transmission very difficult to detect. So yes, you're walking, going about your business normally, but this is it. That's how worrying the situation is. Quite apart from the Greater Accra region, we had 200 of the 500 plus cases. Central region as well, as a number of the cases confirmed in there. You'll recall the minority leader, Alexander Penyomaking, earlier in the week, talking about the situation of cholera outbreak in his constituency, the Efutu constituency in the Central region. Western region as well has recorded some worrying numbers, and then the Eastern region as well. Beyond that, these are the symptoms, just for the purposes of education. Profuse watery diarrhea, often described as quote-unquote rice water stool, vomiting, severe dehydration, dry mouth, sunken eyes, excessive thirst, muscle cramps, rapid heartbeat. And these are the precautionary measures that you can take. Boil, treat, or use bottled water for drinking and cooking. Also, wash hands frequently with soap and clean water, especially before eating or preparing the food. And then avoid raw or undercooked seafood. Wash fruits and vegetables thoroughly and consume only well-cooked meals. And see, think about it. If you're talking about washing these raw cooked, that's fruits and others, the water you're using to wash it as well must be clean, is it not? Professor Richmond Ayite is a public health expert and associate professor at the University of Ghana School of Public Health, joining us right now. Professor Richmond Ayite, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, this certainly must be worrying for you with the statistics that we are seeing right now. And looking at it, what should be the concern of the health institutions beyond just the vaccination that we have had?
Well, from what I have picked up so far, basically, it's a hygiene issue, but it's also water access. In the season that we are in, there is not easy access to water in many places. And when that happens, people try to cope by limiting, their use of water. So we are not washing our hands as frequently as we should. We are not washing it well because we don't have enough water. And water, because it is expensive, getting expensive all the time, people are not able to procure and have enough water to be able to use. That's one side. The other side also has to do with the way we handle food. We are increasingly becoming a society where we are buying a lot of the things that we eat. And people are handling them for us, but we are not doing a good job of handling these things. Ask yourself, the people who are selling in the traffic, where do they wash their hands? The people who are hawking things around, if there's not enough water, what is the guarantee that they are washing their utensils, they are washing the foodstuffs that they are using very well? And if the temperature is also hot, like in the current situation that we have, you also have a situation where microorganisms that cause these conditions, they multiply faster. So there are multiple things that are happening, and these are the things that are causing us the problem that we are seeing. Let me quickly add that in addition to that, Ghanaians, we also need to do a better job of when you experience symptoms of any condition, we need to report to the health facilities quickly enough so that diagnosis can be done and then treatment effective. We are still living like we did many years ago, where when we have a problem, because we used to do cash and carry and it was expensive, we haven't moved on. We will quickly run to the chemical seller and buy something and use without the condition being diagnosed. So all these are different things that are coming together and affecting us.
And rightly so, you diagnose it the best way possible, and also that call for more sensitization on cleanliness of the environment, very important. Thank you so much. Professor Richmond Ayite is a professor of public health at the University of Ghana School of Public Health. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break. Nyantakyi and the update on his case is up next. Stay with us.
You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo